approval.
We're live, baby.
We're live right now?
We are live. Let's
This is
go.
new.
That is crazy. A new era for Cigs Inside, an Indiana football podcast. Obviously, it looks a little bit different right now. If you listened to last week's episode, we did tease a potentially new look for what we're doing here, and this is it. It's so I wouldn't say Cigs Inside is no more. I would say this is an evolution. The Twitter page is still going to stay completely like it's all Indiana football focused and all that good stuff. But in terms of content and what you're going to see visually and audio from Brad and I moving forward, like this is our new home. We're here on the Voice of College Football Network. We're pumped to be here, and we're talking some Indiana Hoosier football.
I feel like Marshall Mathers right now. I'm live on television. I don't know really how to act right now. Just messing. Yeah, Cigs Inside. We're got a new name, new brand. Indiana Hoosiers Live.
Indiana Hoosiers
Presented
Live,
by
baby.
Cigs Inside, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, this is awesome. And yeah, well, just a quick question for our listeners. Like if we miss like parts of the live stream, will we be able to listen back to this?
Of course, you'll be able to listen back to this.
Wow.
This is so basically right now. This is being broadcasted on the Voice of College Football Network's Twitter page. It's also being broadcasted on the Indiana channel at the Voice of College Football YouTube. And then when it's done, it's going to be like it saves the whole like YouTube recording. And so like you'll be able to go on YouTube, find the old live shows, and then I'll be cutting up clips of this episode and releasing those over the week. And so, yeah, you'll be able to go and find it. And then there's also the Indiana channel itself has a podcast stream. So those are linked in the YouTube channel. You guys will be able to find that. And we'll be tweeting the links off our accounts, off the Cigs Inside account. And yeah, yes. Short answer, yes, you'll be able to re-listen to the stream if you miss some.
Thanks.
Hell yeah. But yeah, we're going to get into a lot of stuff. We got Indiana football to break down. Obviously, time of year it is. We got Indiana basketball. We're going to get to that too. But this is the Voice of College Football. We are primarily an Indiana football show. So we're going to talk Hoosiers, baby. Kurt Signetti was on Hoosiers Connect this week or last week. Sat down with another interview. Anytime that man opens his mouth to speak, obviously I'm going to be listening. And so if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. He kind of previews what's been going on and we'll look forward to spring ball, which started this past weekend. Practice 2 was today. But one of the more interesting things that came out of, I don't know if it was that interview or if it was his first press conference, but he said that the team looked a lot cleaner than it did going into spring ball last year. And it wasn't like he wasn't
a lot of sense, honestly.
Yeah, he wasn't saying much in terms of like specifics, but it was like an old coach's way of like, I like what I'm seeing so far. Because obviously, if he was upset with the way things were going, it'd be like there's some things we need to clean up, all this good stuff. But it was like tongue in cheek, like no, the reports have been good.
Yeah, I was watching Mendoza throw the ball a little bit. Yeah, he looks a lot better than I was expecting. And for those, yeah, I was already pretty high on him. So I don't. Yeah, he should.
Were you talking about the pro day clips that came out? Because
I saw some spring day when they were first day in the stadium. He was throwing some deep balls right in front of Signetti.
The ball absolutely explodes out of his hand. Yeah. If you haven't caught his Hoosiers Connect interview either, or the interview he did with the Hoosier Hysterics, like obviously go check those two out. But like watching the ball come out of Mendoza's hand, like you can go watch those pro day throws. You can go watch a couple of the videos from the first days of practice. Like, I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but him and Omar Cooper connected on a deep ball past D'Angelo Pons today. And obviously they're not in pads, so you can't get physical. But like, I don't think Pons was beat in practice last year. And so it kind of goes to show you, like, A, the aggressiveness, and B, it's just like, yeah, the dude throws a great football.
Yeah, whenever you have starters coming back, you're expecting, them to level up year after year. So, you should expect, Cooper and Surratt were already all conference level players. Pons, Fisher, and Kamara obviously were all Americans. And they're all just going to take that next step. And Mendoza's going into his junior year. He's already been a proven starter for his entire college career thus far. And it's just another year where these guys just get 1 year better. And that's kind of the evolution of, how things kind of go, right? All the way throughout the league. They talk about aging, right? And obviously that's a factor in terms of your inhibiting your development, but really as a player, like as an intellectual, whether any sport, you're really, your mind gets sharper, the game better, and everything just, you're able to act on things faster regardless of where your physical capabilities are. And that's like the hallmark of Cignetti teams. Like, they play fast because they know exactly what they're doing, and they have another year. The year 2 jump, like, it's very real. And this team already went to the playoff. Expect another year 2 jump. Like, what does that look like? Does that look like a Big Ten championship? Does it look like just a college football playoff win? Who knows? Does it look like a national championship? I don't know. That's why we have this show, right?
Yeah, because we're going to talk about it. We're going to speculate about it. Do you have the pro day stats in front of you, right? Because I do want to get to those. But real quickly, just to kind of put a bow on CJ West, who we did talk about last week in his combine performance, he was named to the NFL Combine's all defensive team. So, like, we weren't just blowing smoke. It wasn't just Hoosier fans, like, talking whatever. It's like, no, like, this dude showed out at the combine. And so, like, yeah, when you're talking about guys like that who were in the system year 1 and spent 9 months in Indiana and went from Kent State to being talked about as a day 2 draft pick. Now you have guys like you said, like Fisher, like Pons, like Surratt, like Cooper, who are now, and those guys have even been in the system longer, but you have those guys who are going into year 2 of the system, full off season, full like time with Derek Owens and the strength, like, and conditioning staff. And it's like, yeah, that year 2 jump is really real. And like, we're going to talk about these pro day numbers. Like they lost a lot of really legit players, and like the way that they're talking about the current roster, they're not super worried about replacing them, which is really exciting.
I think that's something, it's important to know. Like, obviously this team's going to have draft picks that come out, and obviously that's a lot of talent lost that will need to be replaced. Like, it's not easy to replace CJ West's and Curtis Rourke's, even though, they can collectively through, a transfer portal, maybe. But, those guys are going to be hard to replace. Your Keyshawn Williamses, your Jalen Walkers that are now looking to maybe even get drafted as well after their pro days. Those are the two probably big standout. And Jalen Walker and Keyshawn Williams. Who'd I miss?
Miles Price had a
good
meeting with the
really
Commanders
good,
as well.
Really good day. No real surprises there, but yeah, it's with a really strong transfer portal class and a much larger bulk of the roster being under a Cignetti season than last year. It's only going to go up. 3 All-Americans coming back. But yeah, you ready to go into the pro day?
Yeah, because I specifically want to talk about Jalen Walker because it was head scratching not only to us, but to a lot of people who have been paying attention to this Indiana team that he wasn't a combine invite given the pure speed he was able to put on tape. And like, it's not like, dude runs 22 miles an hour. So apparently he ran a 4.38 40, which is absolutely insane at 6'2", 220.
Yeah, I thought he had a good enough production that based on his projected measurables, he would just get an invite just so they can get them, get accurate numbers on him.
Literally watch him run.
How much does he weigh going 4.4? That's the type of stuff they need to, know. And you can only, pro day numbers are, iffier than, your combine numbers. So I just it is what it is. I mean, it's hard to get a combine. Are you saying
there's home cooking when it comes to pro day numbers?
No, that's not what I'm insinuating. No way those 40 times are unofficial. But didn't Price run like a 4.4? It was really hard to track down like all the numbers, Geezer. I'll be honest. It was really hard. But some standouts: Mangum Farrar put up 31 reps on the bench.
Dude, I think Derek McCormick put up like 7, like he put up like 20 reps or something like that. Like he went over a bunch of the receivers as a place kicker.
Guy.
Yeah, that was really impressive. He also responded to, like, I think Jamie Jordan made a comment about it or something on Twitter, like I can't believe a kicker like put this up or whatever, and he was like, kickers are people too or something like that. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and then Keyshawn Williams, 39 inches in the vert. It's really good. And then Miles Price put up a 4.44, I believe. 4.44. And that got him a conversation with a couple teams. I saw Commanders, 49ers, Anyone else I'm missing?
I
So
know we were tagged. The podcast account was tagged in a 49ers, like, or not a 49ers, like a Commanders meeting. So if you saw 49ers too, like that would be really cool. Cause I mean, like we saw, the dude can play, he's tough, he returns punts, like he's willing to play special teams. That's the thing also with a lot of these, like Indiana, like Jalen Walker is more than willing to play special teams. Like the Indiana starting defense was playing special teams the entire year.
I'm gonna
Like
go out on a limb here and say Jalen Walker makes a roster. I'm just gonna go out on a
anybody who
limb.
loves football that much and is willing to throw his body around like that and at the speeds he does it deserves to be on a roster at the very least.
I'm not gonna speak for Price or Williams, but I'm very confident in Jalen Walker, and that's that. And I think West and Rourke are basically locks. I don't think they really participated in pro day all that much.
Well, I
From
mean, Rourke literally had ACL surgery, what,
yeah, and West
December
was at the
20th?
combine a week ago,
Yeah.
so it didn't really make sense for him to like do all this stuff again.
No,
He
because if
probably
he
maybe
goes
did
out there and he
some drills.
runs like 5 flat or 505, then everybody starts talking about how like it's like no, he did
Yeah,
everything he
like
needed to do. You pack it up and you see everybody on draft night.
yeah, I think they just did some interviews and just kind of went their separate ways. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see which Hoosiers get drafted. I think it's important to note, like, with the lack of potential guys getting drafted, it's honestly a positive. The year before Washington went to the national title game, they went. I think they won 10 or 11 games, and they had 0 draft picks that year. And guess what? they go all the way to the playoff and have a ton more draft picks the next year because a lot of their guys came back, and that's the situation that Indiana kind of finds themselves in. A lot of their best players from the team last year came back, and like we talked receiver, we talked the 3 levels of the defense, like all those star players from that group, and arguably our best O lineman is back.
Well, I think that's like the biggest thing about NIL that people kind of misconstrue is that, and I also was kind of like chewing around this week, is like I think we're almost done seeing the type of team that like Ohio State was this year, like Michigan was the year before, where it's just like these teams are loaded with seniors because of the COVID rules, and then you can, because of NIL, turn around and pay these guys who are going to get drafted in the 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, be undrafted free agents. You can pay them equivalent or sometimes even better to stay in school. And that's how you end up with these like 4th and 5th year senior heavy rosters. And you're essentially just like, you have a team of grown men playing football. And so when you look at Indiana, specifically to somebody like Mikal Kamara, who led the nation in pressures 5 years ago, if Indiana had this season, there's no question that kid's going to the draft. But when you have NIL and the ability to pay him, I don't know what they're paying him, and I doubt we're going to find out what that figure is, but it was good enough to keep him at school. And so the fact that they can like do that, and the fact that, like you said, like they're bringing back a lot of experience. So it's not just like, oh my God, we're replacing a sick year with a bunch of freshmen. It's like, no, they have some key losses, but like a lot of the bulk of the roster is still there.
Yeah, you can fill a full starting roster with guys that got significant playing time last year, whether that be on special teams or whether they're getting backup reps on defense. They have enough coming back to where they filled it all with the portal again, and the depth is even better because all of Signetti guys that have come in the last 2 years through freshman classes are now filling in that 3-4 deep, and that's basically the bulk of the youth is all Signetti guys. So this is truly, the year 2 jump. It's real. Like he brought in some really talented freshmen that are probably, making pushes for some PT. So it's only going to push the other guys. And yeah, the program, the roster, it's all very, very healthy despite everyone leaving.
Yeah. And this is
despite a big bulk of people leaving. And it's kind of like, I think it's important to know, like with this offseason, it's a very unique offseason because it's the last year where the COVID rule, where the COVID year doesn't count in terms of your eligibility, kind of goes into effect. All those 5th year guys that were freshmen in the 2020 in the COVID year that didn't count, they have all run out of eligibility. So the bulk of rosters now, you saw the mass exodus at Indiana in terms of just numbers on the roster. Like that was not, Indiana is not the only school going through that in the country right now. You see it at Ohio State. You see it at a lot of other places to where they're going to have to, have a lot of guys that haven't stepped up before step up. And Indiana's in a much better spot than a lot of these teams. And just in terms of how they've, constructed the roster through the portal over the years. Very exciting.
Absolutely agree. The last kind of thing I want to touch on from the pro day, and that'll kind of lead us into spring practice, which again started over the weekend. And I know we kind of gushed about it a little bit, but with Rourke not being able to throw, obviously that leaves the next quarterback in line to throw, that being Fernando Mendoza. And you want to talk about just a stage to be able to kind of show what you got. It's like, hey man, like welcome to the team. Go throw in front of a bunch of NFL guys because they're all going to be here watching our dudes. Like that's all you could ask for as a quarterback is an opportunity. And then just the way he looked throwing the football, like, I mean, maybe they just didn't put the drops, didn't post the drops, but like everything was like he was placing balls in the basket at 40 yards. Like everything was crisp. The timing was great. Like you could tell he actually had like a little bit of chemistry with the receivers. Like it wasn't just the first time he had thrown to them. And I can't say enough good things about the way Fernando Mendoza has handled like every second of his short Indiana career so far.
Yeah, we already know he's 6'5", can run. But a lot of people question, his accuracy. And from what I was seeing, obviously he had the 40-yard in accuracy, has this very quick motion with his mechanics. That was very surprising to see at 6'5", where the ball's really getting out there. Usually when you're taller, you have slow, just a bigger windup. So it just doesn't get that's like a big thing with Drew Aller, where he, can be late sometimes because he has that big windup. Mendoza at 6'5", very, very quick, very accurate within 40, and clearly can shoot that whole shot very accurately. And I think it's going to be he was hitting those sideline throws very, very often. And those are like the toughest throws when you're a quarterback, is throwing it across the field and hitting the sideline and at deep, not just short range, but also deep. Like obviously the further you go, the harder the throw is. And he was just hitting them. He is clear within 40 accuracy. I would love to see, with him being 6'5", like with all this first round buzz, like does he have that Josh Allen cannon? Like does he have that? That's kind of what I just am kind of missing from him. He's kind of like he had all that NFL buzz before when he entered the portal, and he had all that Georgia buzz, and now that's kind of died down since he went to Indiana naturally. And you can kind of see where that was coming from when he was at the pro day. I think a lot of eyes were on him at the pro day as well.
Yeah, and I think especially when and I don't know how much you want to get into it, but when you look at who threw at the combine and what kind of throwing at the combine means, and to look at some of those performances, especially from somebody like a Will Howard, who me and you have both talked about, like actually liking his game. But I mean, he went out there and had not a great combine performance, and it's like throwing to receivers you've never thrown to and things like that. But then you just have that idea of what this quarterback class looks like, and like everybody just audibly hates it, which is insane. I think a lot of those guys actually might end up being pretty good, but we'll see. But then you fast forward a couple of days and you watch the way the ball comes out of Mendoza's hand and how fluid it looks, and like, yeah, like you can't fall in love with the pro day. Like I'm a Jets fan. I watch Zach Wilson. Like I have the scars. So it's like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, this is all the proof I need. But I mean, you just watch the guy do the action of football and it's like, yeah, like he's pretty fucking good at it.
Yeah, it's not about, that's the problem with Zach Wilson. Like he did all the fancy shit, like great, like very above average to what everyone else can do in terms of like the fancy stuff. But what makes you a good quarterback is how good do you do the simple stuff? How good do you do the easy stuff? That's why Mahomes is the best quarterback. He does the easy stuff better than anyone. The short range throws.
And that's
20,
why I love the fact that like all of Fernando Mendoza's public appearances have been like blue jeans and like sneakers, just classic like dad look. Just like I literally don't care about anything but like family and getting better at football.
Yeah, and that's and go figure, he's doing all the easy stuff right, and you're not seeing him doing these like flashy throws like Dylan Raiola and Drew Aller, who are, Drew Aller's still playing college football for a reason. How good do you do the easy stuff? We're gonna see how good with this quarterback friendly offense. You got to be very excited with Mendoza's accuracy within 40.
Oh, 100%. I think when you look at what we're going to be looking for this spring, quarterback is not going to be one of them. I think he's obviously unquestioned the number one. I think Grant Wilson unquestioned is the number two just based on age. And then kind of Alberto's kind of hanging in the background, like with the ability to move up. But like I said, I don't think quarterback is going to be a question going into spring. But I do have, as much as I like the roster, a couple questions about it that I'm interested to get your take on it, because we did just finish up.
I have the roster written down on a sheet of paper.
We did just finish up day 2 of the spring. Roster. You want to talk about Indiana's transfer portal haul? Arguably, the second biggest name on it besides Fernando Mendoza was Pat Coogan, when the center from Notre Dame's national title run. When Coogan committed, obviously the natural thought was he was going to play center, but I've seen a lot of people say he could slide over to left guard. He might play right guard. So how do you see the offensive line shaping up? And at least what do you think we're going to see early in camp, in spring practice, to where like we might get some answers?
If I had like just a guess and somewhat like half like what I would do, half what I think they're going to do. I mean, Coogan played center in the national championship game this past year. Started. He's going to fill in at center. Drew Evans is out with an Achilles tear. We don't know how long that's going to be. He would
get well soon.
Normally be the left guard, but that's likely going to be Khalil Benson. And then Bray Lynch at the right guard. And then Mikowski at the right tackle. And Carter Smith at left tackle, just like it was last year. With him coming back. That's some high level. That's a high level starting lineup.
Do you see any of the redshirt freshmen being able to push?
Yeah, like going into spring, like that's the ones, right? Like that's who is getting the 1 reps, because they're the most experienced. They brought a lot of those guys in with NIL, politics, those types of things, right? And so obviously with Evans out, Vinny Feicable and Cooper Jones leaving the team, it's basically Austin Barrett, who's a redshirt sophomore, and the 7 freshmen that Cignetti has brought in. So they're going to have a ton of opportunity to really make a name for themselves and make pushes. And like of the scholarship linemen, like that's what's left. It's Austin Barrett and Cignetti guys. Cignetti freshmen that he's brought in over the past 2 years. Just based on playing time last year, I think Austin Leibfried makes a really big push. He's got that tackle build. They're giving him reps at guard because I think they just wanted, see what he can move him around, see the versatility. He's 6'6". I mean, if he could fill in at guard, and then we could like 6'6" guard would be awesome. Like that's we're talking like Georgia, like that's what they have. If you get that type of size at the guard, and then keep filling in the tackle at over the years in the portal, like just keep getting the top 10 tackle in the portal every year. And I think Austin Leibfried's a guy that could potentially push for some rotation guys, just because he's got versatility, and yeah, it'd be great to just see what he can do. That's a name that I really like. And then obviously I think your guy Johnny he's a clear guard. He can maybe even be a center one day.
Dude, but he's a mauler. His high school tape is so fun to watch.
6'5", really stocky though, and he's or I think he's like 6'4", but he's a very large interior guard that I think can make some pushes for some PT as well. So there's a lot of exciting.
Like there's a couple kids in the freshman class that like obviously are going to be too young to play this year, that are going to be factors in 2026.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see kind of where they slot in. Like I like Matt Merrick to maybe get some center reps. I think he's kind of got that very heavy build. I think he's quick enough. Maybe Baylor Wilkin can get some center reps. He's very quick and very, 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 very tough, like a tough guy. And I think he kind of fits the personality of a center a little bit. So it'd be nice to see if we can maybe start building some center depth, because that's a really important position and something we'll continue to invest NIL on, and if needed, but it got to develop from within.
It's a definitely a Bob Bostad staple to go get a bunch of left tackles in high school and turn them into whatever you need at the college level. That's kind of his MO. Is like just adaptability, and the most talented offensive lineman typically plays left guard. It's like, yeah, if you go watch any of these freshmen in high school, they're all playing left guard.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard, or not
Yeah.
left guard, left tackle.
Yeah.
And
Your best
so
alignment is playing left tackle. So if they're going to go play
every
at
time.
Indiana, they're probably playing left tackle in high school. So their position in high school is basically meaningless to me. It's really just based on like how tall they are is really like the taller you are, the more likely you are to be a tackle in my mind. Because you get to the NFL, like all those guys are 6'5" plus if you want to play tackle. Like that's just the basic requirement. So if you want to get at Georgia's level, like we got to have 6'5" plus tackles. It's just how it needs to be. And Ajani being 6'4", would love to see his development in the interior. Is kind of just where I'm not trying to slight any of these guys. I'm just kind of just going based off, what I've seen in the past.
I like it.
I think it's decent
I want to
insight.
go.
I mean,
I want to
there's
go.
other names that were like, are we doing a full breakdown of these rooms right now? I was just kind of giving you
No,
names.
no, 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 no. I'm kind of more so looking like these are just basic like general questions that hopefully get answered
For
as spring
spring.
goes on. I have something else written down first, but I want to go this way because I can't believe we didn't talk about it. But first of all, Justice Ellison is going to be a coach on the team this year.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So shout out to Coach Juice. I got my Tyson
Coach
Lawton
Juice.
shirt on right now. Shout out to Lottie. But the running back rotation seems like it's going to be cut and dry, but I just want to get your quick thoughts on it. Obviously, Roman Hemby transferred in. Lee Beebe Jr. after an agent fiasco is a Hoosier, we think, and hasn't entered the portals, and we haven't heard anything about that. So
Who?
have to assume Lee Beebe Jr.
Yeah, I think he's on the roster right now.
No, he's on the roster for sure. I just know there was like an agent thing that happened, and then we have Kalon Black who's on the roster too, and so you probably assume we're going to get a three-headed monster this year, unless you think it's just kind of Hemby ends up dominating.
I think the three you're probably thinking of that that you're Hemby, Black. Sorry, I'm looking at the sheet. Hemby, Black, Beebe. Probably going to get the majority of the carries this upcoming year. Van Horst being kick returner, he's the sixth guy, and then you have Cuono and Martin. Yeah, I'm just going to break down the room because it's so small. There's only six of them. Cuono and Martin, they're still young. I think experience at this running back position just goes a long way. You got Roman Hemby. he's gonna start. He's been starting at running back since he was a freshman, playing at a very high level. Basically, 1,000-yard season pace his entire career. We were really high on Kalon Black last year, so I just see him as the clear like Lawton role. Like last year, like Ellison is good. Ellison role to Hemby, maybe even more carries, honestly, than what Ellison was getting. Even though they run the ball a ton, so there's plenty to go around, especially earlier in the year. Once we get into big games, I expect us to pass a lot more. Just that's kind of what these elite teams look like when they're really clicking. Is they kind of just throw the ball more because they can and they're better and they can just win on the outside, but. Hemby's going to get majority of the carries. I like Black coming in at the 2, and then Beebe is just change of pace guy. The fastest running back. I kind of like that role, like as a third running back, just coming in for like screens and pass game stuff and maybe third downs. He gets a bulk of opportunities on third down, and then first and second downs basically going to Black and Hemby strictly. Even though I could see Hemby and Black going on third down as well, but I expect a lot of third down action for Beebe. Comparatively to like the rest of his stuff that he's getting. But they kind of do like, going 2 carries at a time is kind of what they tend to do with the rotation. So it'll be interesting to see how they treat Beebe is kind of the biggest question mark for me will be Beebe.
I think it's more so like hot hand / like who's fresh more so than it is like first down, second down, third down. I think when you look at the type of back they recruit, it's like do it all, have to be able to pass protect, have to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield, and obviously have to be able to run through the tackles. And so I'm just because we obviously saw a very strict 2-back rotation, especially as the year went on. Like Elijah Green got a little bit of work like early in mop up duty, but like we really didn't see Black at all. And so I'm interested to see if that was just due to the nature of the roster and kind of how they felt going down the stretches. They just trusted those two guys more, or if it was more so of like we're riding these guys because that's all we've got. So it'll be interesting to see how they use Black,
Yeah.
especially going into the fall. But I'm not sure we'll get an answer on that until we start seeing them actually hit.
Yeah, that's why I'm inclined to think Hemby is going to get more carries than Ellison got last year.
Yeah, I think he's very clearly the one.
Like,
and I like the talent we have in the room, and I like like Sean Cuono, I think is really good, and I really like Kobe Martin. But like you talk about a guy who like production in the Big Ten and has shown bursts and the ability to hit home runs. It's like, yeah, like let's see what that guy can do behind this offensive line and this blocking scheme, because like the one real thing that Ellison or Lawton didn't have was like that home run burst. Is like we're going to score from 70, 75. It doesn't even matter who's on the field. And
yeah,
you kind of saw in those games where like the better athletes were on the defense, like they weren't able to break away as much or as frequently. And I think that's something Hemby has been like shown the ability to do.
I think what's exciting about this group as a whole is that I think all these guys probably have upgraded home run ability than Ellison and Lawton did. All three of them. Even the younger, like every single running back they have in the room now is probably a better ability to hit the home run ball than definitely Ellison and most likely Lawton as well. So that's one thing to note about this room as a whole, is that I think they're a lot faster, a lot more explosive. Are they going to be bell cows? Probably just Roman Hemby. And I think Black's capable of it, just given that he's a senior. But yeah, it's a very exciting, like very explosive group as a whole. And yeah, excited to maybe see an improvement in the run game as we continue to talk about an upgraded O-line and a more explosive running back room. It's almost like I keep talking myself into it.
It's almost like we're going to be pretty good next year, huh?
It's almost like we're like still Big Ten, like not just relevant Big Ten players, but I would say legit contenders, is because we haven't even talked about the defense that's returning 3 All-Americans yet.
No. I want to talk about the slot real quick, because I know me and I've kind of thrown a couple different options at you. You've been pretty steadfast in what you like there. I said I kind of would have liked to seen maybe Surratt and Cooper work in a little bit and see what they can offer from there, just as a versatility thing. But kind of who do you like, or who do you see coming out of spring with the slot job?
I like Tyler Morris. I think that's why they brought him in. I think that he's going to be getting 1 reps first day. I bet he already was. He's the only guy on the in wide receiver room with a national title. He's getting 1 reps. That's just kind of how it goes. He's going to get 1 reps in the slot. I think there's a lot of potential just with the versatility that you mentioned. I think Cooper has that route running technicality to where he can do it. I think it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense with Surratt. He's so dangerous. Like, put him outside, and he's so long too. But it'd be fun to maybe see them do it a little bit with him just for his NFL kind of stock. I'd be curious. Surratt just, if he wants to be an All-American, like if he's like an All-American level player, we might see him in the slot a little bit. Like if he's first round guy, second round guy, we might. But at the end of the day, like I don't want to diss anything about Surratt. Like he is a guy that came from St. Francis. He's not like the typical 5-star prospect. He's kind of grinded his way, and he's really found a role as that outside guy, and he's very dominant out there. So I kind of like the idea of just sticking him out there. I think Mekhi Jackson has a lot of potential in the slot. And then the 2 freshmen, Kendrick and Bond, I imagine, are going to get a ton of opportunity to make a name for themselves at that role, because they just fit the mold.
You want to talk about
a lot more
class of 2025 guys that I just like, that whole receiver room between the 2 of those guys and Davion Chandler, like explosive.
Like I think you can move some of these outside guys inside, like Mekhi Jackson, but in my 3 deep right now, because there's 9 scholarship guys in this room, I got Kendrick and Bond as the 2 guys behind Tyler Morris at the slot. I think they're going to get a lot of opportunity to Because what's nice about the slot is that you can kind of play it as a young guy. As long as you're fast and can get open and know the playbook, know what to do, like you can get playing time. You don't have to be,
as
super
physically
strong
ready.
and built up. You can kind of, I'm sure, Bond and Kendrick have been, a $175 their whole football career. I'm sure they can take a hit. I'm sure they're fine. It's a different level, and they'll have to get used to it. And definitely in fall camp, that's when they're really going to have to get used to it. It's much tougher environment with the pads. It's full go, as I believe spring isn't. I think they only have a couple.
I
full
think
go days.
you can pick and choose. I know last year they went padded once. Like I think Sig said they were in pajamas when he was talking about.
Yeah, they don't
spring
in
practice.
spring. They don't bang yet necessarily.
No.
And that
No,
in
no.
fall camp they go extra bang to make up for that. It's kind of, I don't know if they do that anymore. Politics. I don't know. Just the way society is. Anyways,
Politics, man, it's tough.
politics. Fuck it.
Not letting them bang in
It's
spring.
not letting them bang anymore. It's brutal.
I would
Yeah,
ask you about the tight end room, but
that being said, Bond and Kendrick, tons of opportunity there.
Oh, actually, real quick, do you see Charlie Becker fitting in this year?
With Williams coming back and Mekhi Jackson,
which is Williams coming back is a massive deal, by the way, and like to have him healthy and like invested and like Morris
he's
is not
3 or 4 guys, so getting him very comfortable in the offense and understanding his role, just be like, hey, look at Miles Cross last year. That's you. You're Miles Cross this year. All right, so that's going to be his role, and he's going to be fully understanding. He's going to make plays, and I'm super excited to see what he can do this year because his ceiling is very high. So if he at a wide receiver outside, wide receiver 3. I don't hate it. Him and Mekhi Jackson are going to be kind of fighting for tick. But I think they bring different things to the table. I think Mekhi Jackson's kind of a big play, like yak guy, whereas EJ Williams is kind of like throw it 20 yards down at the sideline. He can go get it, make a play. Kind of just different things that they can do really well that I think will fit in very nicely with this team.
I would ask you about the tight end room, but I don't think we have enough to go on. I don't think that there's enough production to definitively say who's going to end up being on the field in 11 personnel. And so unless you have something to add there, I was just going to jump right past it.
I think it's one of the rooms where the projected starter, which is Holden Stays coming in, he's probably going to go with the ones first day. I think, that's who I project to be our day one starter, but I think some guys that can emerge, because I think Nowakowski's going to fill that. He's going to have a very unique role. I don't think he's going to line up on the line. I think he's going to be more of like an H-back. They're going to use him in
H-back, fullback, like very much like in to be a 6th offensive lineman type.
They have one tight end in that room that can kind of do both, which is really nice. And his name is Sam West. And I'd say that's a name to look out for. He made a big play last year. They ran a little play for him, which kind of shows you their trust in him already. Obviously, it was against Cupcake, but if they're running play, they didn't do a whole lot of that for guys last year. They didn't run plays for McCauley. They ran a play for Sam West, and he made a big play. And I think it comes to show, those things aren't necessarily flukes. I would say he's young. He was a redshirt freshman when that happened. He's going to his 3rd year in the program. I think that's a guy that can really emerge as one of our best players on the offense potentially.
They did run plays for McCauley. He caught a touchdown.
Got concussed.
I don't know.
He got knocked out is what happened. But yeah, Sam West, number 88 in your program.
I like it. I was not. He was not on my radar, to be honest.
Breakout candidate, yeah.
All right, let's move over to the defense because you want to talk about letting them bang. Cornerback 1, obviously, we know is D'Angelo Pons. Bite-sized Bison pointed out today that the cornerback who was getting the CB2 reps in the Mendoza to Cooper touchdown video was Jamari Sharp. Is that surprising? Did you expect it to be, was it Garland?
A little bit, but it kind of makes sense because they do have, if they separate Gandy and Knighton right away,
Gandy.
if they separate both those guys, because those are the kind of the guys that you think are competing for the one spot, like the opposite side of Pons, the two transfers that they brought in. You would think it's those guys, but just have your returning guy Sharp, who has starting experience, throw him at the ones to start with, and obviously Gandy. And we knew it was going to be Sharp, Gandy, Knighton anyways, so just start the one returning guy at the ones so far, like to start with, and he has a shot, and they brought these guys to kind of fuel the fire behind them. And, so Sharp gets the opportunity at first. Like I said, just typical politics of the nature, right? Yeah, it's hard because I would lean Gandy because he played Power 5 ball, ACC already, but so is Sharp in theory. So like, who's to say Knighton isn't going to be the guy? It's just really nice knowing that we have three guys fighting for one starting spot right now. Three quality guys that I'd be throw them out there. I'm like, okay, we're fine. Like, I'm good with good amount of cornerback depth at this room, and we haven't even talked about the three freshmen, Cignetti freshmen. When I refer to the Cignetti freshmen, these are freshmen from the past 2 years. So they're likely red shirts or true freshmen. Who knows? But we got, three very talented, if you've ever listened to this podcast, we're probably the most high on the Cignetti freshmen that are in the DB room more than anything else. So that's the depth behind the four guys, the four starting experienced college level guys that we already have at the cornerback spot. So it's a place where I really just don't have a whole lot of worries. And yeah, you have an All-American on one side and a whole lot of options on the other. It's same story as last year, but it hopefully, as long as they're better than Jameer Johnson, I really don't care, to be honest. It's an upgrade. So, yeah, and that's not to say Jameer Johnson was bad in any way, but if he's an upgrade, he's an upgrade.
Do you want to talk about the safety rotation? Because obviously Amari Farrell slotted in, no-brainer start. But who do you think is going to be next to him? And who do you think's playing Rover? No. I think he was playing the deep. But
so if Farrell's playing the deep, that changes.
I think he's playing that. I think he's like literally just like he put on the number 1 jersey and he's just going to play the Sean Asbury role.
Okay. I could see Farrell playing the Rover is kind of like where I'm coming from with this, because we have a lot of depth at safety. Lewis Moore would probably be the other safety if Farrell's back there, which makes me believe Devon Boykin, the transfer from NC State, is probably going to fill in at the Rover because he's just a true nickel guy. So if he's physical enough for what they want to do at that position, like he's not as big as Terry Jones and Amari Farrell. He's not as big as those guys, but if he can play the position and just be a physical cover guy for us at that position, that'd just be astronomical. So that's how I'd project the safeties. Just based on what you're telling me, it could go either way. I could see Boykin mixing in, and then you got.
Well,
Farrell
I also could have just completely missed where Farrell was on the field.
Bonds and Baldwin are just there. Like Bonds, special team studs later in their careers always turn out to be very good starters like that.
Hey, listen, I'm not going to discount. Like, I know probably a lot of people may have turned the game off at this point out of sheer just they felt so bad for Purdue because we were beating them so bad. But at the end of that 66-0 game, Bryson Bonds had a ridiculous interception.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Where he's just going almost vertical backwards. The dude could play football. And then Byron Baldwin Jr., again, if you want to echo the sentiment of if you've listened to this podcast, well, we're huge fans of that kid. He's a really talented football player. And then you talked about the freshmen in that room. The freshman corners are disgusting too. Jalen Hollywood Bell was on a picture. I had something posted about him today or something. It's he was an LSU commit at one point. There's a lot of talent in that room, a lot of young talent in that room.
Yeah, and I think Farrell and Pons are probably going to be NFL guys. Just putting it out there. Like, they're high level players, and we got two NFL guys, very experienced, Moore, Bonds, Boykin, and then those corners that I already mentioned. It's a very, very good room. It's a lot better than it looked going into last year. You know how last year turned out. So a lot
Yeah,
less question marks, a lot more high seat, like just guys that can just, if these guys break out, like if I'm gonna throw a name out, Dontre Henderson, like if he breaks out, like he could end up being the starting cornerback. Who knows? Like, these guys are good. Like Dontre Henderson, for those
that's
who don't know,
Jair Alexander's cousin.
Alexander, he's gonna be a redshirt freshman for the Hoosiers this year. He might, if he could break out, like that's just huge for the program, because then that's one less spot to fill in the portal, more spots to fill in the freshman level. It's just really nice if you could have freshmen break out. And I'm gonna throw another name at safety. I'm gonna throw Jaja Boyd. He seemed to be the only redshirt freshman in the safety room. So we were pretty high on him. He's got a really cool name that usually works out. Would love to see him.
It's a guy who followed that he was part of that 2024 class that followed Sig from JMU to Indiana.
Another JMU guy, which it seems to be a lot of the JMU recruits are the guys breaking out early, which is funny to see. Kind of, I don't think there's a coincidence there, is what I'll say.
No, and we'll get to Landino in a second, but I do. Well, actually, and I want to finish off the cornerback room just by saying this, that I don't think it's an accident that it looks like two of the dopest guys in the world are Ola Adams and Rod Ojong, and those are your corners coach and your safeties coach, and their room is sick.
And the room's awesome. Yeah. So much potential, so much proven talent already there. It's sky's the limit. Like, because like these young guys are going to be learning from D'Angelo Pons and Amari Farrell and Lewis Moore and those guys. Like, Lewis Moore has been around the block. Like, he's played a lot of football. He knows what winning looks like. He knows what losing looks like. He knows a lot. He knows a lot about college football. I'll tell you that, just from his whole roller coaster of a career, just going from a 3-9 Indiana team to a 10-win playoff contender in Ole Miss. And it's just, he probably has tons of stories. So these guys can just soak it all in and just be great. No pressure to like break out or anything. We're not relying on these freshmen to play by any means. It's just, if they can give us some special teams. Like, if they're getting on the field, that's just a good sign for the program health.
100%. Speaking of getting on the field, it's so hard to tell in these like one video shots or these like pictures they sent out, but Ro Hardy was the other linebacker, it looked like, next to Fisher. And so it seems like he might have the slight edge over Bones Jones when it comes to that second linebacker spot. Are you seeing anything?
The biggest clear, like, it's either this guy or this guy battle throughout all of spring, and it'll probably go into fall too, is Ro Hardy versus Isaiah Jones for that second linebacker spot. It's wide open. They didn't get to go in the portal to get a guy. It's clearly theirs for the taking, and that was always the plan, because they both look really good. And just like I've been saying, like, one's going to start and then one's going to be the backup. Like, the depth is awesome. Like, it's at a point, like, it's like, I don't care who starts. I think it'd be awesome for Bones Jones to get that opportunity, and then to be kind of mix in Ro Hardy as kind of the playmaking. He seems to, that Ro Hardy dude, I don't know what's up with him. He's like 5'11", 220, just running around there.
He's like, what's wrong with that guy? I don't know.
Like the best football player you've ever seen, like 0-star recruit. Just like, he's the best. He's like the best football player you've ever seen. He's like 220, 5'11". That guy cracks me up. He's just like, I don't understand. Like, I'm so excited for his career, because he's just going to be doubted again. He's probably going to go undrafted, have a great college career, go undrafted, and then make a 53 man. It's probably what's going to happen to Ro Hardy. He's probably just going to continue to be doubted and just continue to prove him wrong. And like myself. Like, remember when we previewed these freshmen? I was just like, I don't know who the hell Roe Hardy is.
Yeah, I was like, no, we have to talk. I'm pretty sure he transferred in from a Naval Prep Academy, right?
Yeah, he was like the only 0-star recruit on the team, and he's like the freshman that got the most playing time. It's
When your coach is
unreal.
telling you, I don't care about stars, I only care about production, and then you see a 0-star recruit in the roster, and you just don't like if you don't immediately go like, maybe that guy's probably pretty good. Like you're just not
Yeah.
you either don't trust the guy or you're not listening.
I didn't know. Like, yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't trust Sig at the time. Like, this is the new Indiana football coach. No one's ever had success at this school ever, and he's bringing in 0-star recruits. Oh, tale as old as time. Indiana 0-star recruits. Like, that's yeah. He didn't earn that trust yet. So like, yeah, I kind of had to diss Roe Hardy there and overlooked him. But that's just the sign to where when we look at these recruiting classes, like, as long as we're getting the guys that we're really going after, we're gonna be all right. Obviously, we're gonna get the 4 and 5. We're gonna get in the running for these 4 and 5 stars, but we're still gonna get the 4 and 5 stars that we want. We're not just gonna get the ones that are the most available, which is a big mistake a lot of programs make in the SEC, especially
and in
because
Nebraska.
they have all these great recruiting classes, and then they still stink. It's like, what's going on? Enough of them, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know who doesn't stink? The Indiana defensive line. We know for a fact Mikal Kamara is sliding over. He's gonna play stud. We are strongly assuming Jose Wheeler. So if you don't know who Jose Wheeler is, go like after the stream's done, go check out Buffed Prime's breakdown of Jose Wheeler, just the type of player he is, and you'll be just as excited as we are. Like this dude's an animal. He was 2-gapping against Alabama. Like freak at 300 pounds. This dude's a freak. Like honestly, you could tell me he's gonna play the end spot that Kamara played last year, and I would believe you. But I kind of shifting down through the rest of the line. What does it look like to you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of guys are going to get some opportunities that maybe they won't. And I'm going to be brutally honest here. I like the room. There's tons of young, talented depth here. Like this, I think they have 18 scholarship guys coming into the spring. Like this is a great, like depth wise, great room just in terms of just upside there because there's just so many people, right? Like there's just, I think it's the biggest room. I think it's the biggest room on the roster is their defensive line right now in terms of scholarship count. D-line has the most scholarships right now. So there's just a lot of guys that can break out. And that includes like an Andrew Turvey, who's technically a walk-on. Like you have Utzinger in the linebacking room that will probably get a lot of special teams playing time. But Turvey was getting some tick early in the year, and he's going to have an opportunity to kind of compete behind Kamara at that stud spot that he was at last year. And compete against Ndukwe and kind of see kind of where those two guys are at in terms of being the backup for Kamara. Like, are they where we need to be? Like, this is a room where I think there's a lot of evaluation going to be going on. I think in terms of like which room probably has the most potential for post-spring turnover, it's probably going to be the defensive line, just because there's just there's so many guys. There's so many guys, and you just don't know where they're going to be at. And
well, actually, I will add that I think I don't want to say I can safely say it, but I think you can give an early nod to Mario Landino at that Kamara spot as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just think because of the way he played last year, the spots he was in, because of what he showed, like I think that dude's prime for a really big, really big defense fall.
Yeah. I'm sorry for interrupting you, by the way.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
You're
good. With Landino, like, because we're pretty high on Landino. The dude we always bring up his high school senior stats where he's like a D tackle, 12 games. He had like 100 tackles.
97 tackles.
97 tackles.
I think actually I watched it break Brad in real time when he saw this. He's like because I read it and I was like, yeah, he had like 97 tackles, and Brad was like at defensive
tackle. Like he wasn't playing like edge because he's like the biggest guy on their team, so he's playing in the middle. Even if he was DN, like that's still like that's probably crazy. Actually, if he was on one side of the field and they're probably running away from him because he's Mario Landino, that's even crazier that he has 97. So like whatever the situation is, it's insane. So I think, like I was saying, like big evaluation Opportunity in the sense that, like, yeah, we're going to have this redshirt freshman getting runs with the ones. And we're going to see how he goes up against Carter Smith and Zen Mikowski every day. And is he going to be ready to get the majority of the snaps at that position? If not, he's going to be a 2, and they're going to bring a guy in the portal. This is a room where I think if they're going to go post spring portal, they're going to really focus on this D line. And if they can bring in more depth and have Landino, even if Landino is like really good, like maybe bring in just upgrade that position to have Landino just fresh, like D line. That's a room where there's a ton of rotation. So like playable depth is the most important thing. So guys like Collins, like where's Tre'Davious Collins at? Like is he playable yet? Is kind of like why I keep saying, evaluation in these guys, like the DePepe brothers, and just seeing where they're at, especially at the DN spot with this group, is where a lot of question marks are. Obviously, they have Kamara, and they're looking really good, but can they get better? Are they better than they were last year? Is just kind of the question marks that are just going in to this room, because obviously that's the room where they lost the most talent. It really is, at least at the starting level. You had CJ West, Carpenter. I'm missing one. CJ West, Carpenter,
Linnell Carr.
Linnell Carr. And they lost 3 really good players to eligibility, and they got to replace it. They bring back the All-American, but I think Tyreek Tucker is the guy that's really he's gonna start at nose, and Hosea Wheeler at D tackle. I think my gut's telling me that's pretty set. And then you got Burris and Ratcliffe in the wings, guys he already brought in. So they kind of already addressed the D tackle. The D end is, I would say, where the most question marks are, for me, at least. I could be wrong, and all these guys are playable, and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Well, I think that's what
in terms of just like
because
proven on the field, like there's a lot less than the DB in the linebacking room, is what I'll say.
Well, you talk about you talk about the year 2 jump. All right, what does that look like? It looks like a freshman who maybe wasn't physically ready or mentally ready to play, spending the offseason and a spring in the playbook and in the weight room, and all of a sudden that person reaches the talent level you saw for them, and that person's ready to play. So that's what that jump looks like. And like obviously
an upgrade
we weren't
from Linnell Carr. Like that's the question.
That's a question. But if you if you want to go by the vibes and like obviously we weren't in the weight room all off season, but like all reports out of Bloomington right now scream like this is a really physical, really freaky football team that's excited to get back on the field.
No, yeah, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. But if we could just talk about playable depth, just the end, it's just a lot less proven. You have Kamara and Landino. No one else has gotten tick in that D end room. No one else, to my knowledge. I don't think Collins has gone on the field. I don't think DePepe's gone on the field. I would love to see them all break out and be great players, but they're going to evaluate and see where they're at.
No, I'm with you. I think post spring portal on the defensive line is definitely something to watch, and it's something that shout out to Angelo Pons, who's been almost relentless on recruiting guys and scouting guys, and so I'm sure we're in good hands at that position. But no, you're right. It's when you talk about like unproven production, like that's the one spot on the field really where you can point to and be like, and I guess maybe right tackle if you want to question how much football Mikowski,
Zen Mikowski, I believe.
Mikowski, if you want to question how much football he's actually played. But no, it's the roster looks good, and I think a lot of the question marks and a lot of the positional, I guess, battles that we almost talked about, a lot of that's going to be figured out in the next 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, like Zen Mikowski, like he's a guy coming from the Ohio State O-line rotation. Like he was playing for Ohio State. He wasn't necessarily starting. It's just a very, very talented recruit that they brought in. But like to the D line, I'd love to see potential breakouts from Ndukwe and Collins. I think that would be very, very beneficial for our team. Would be those 2 guys stepping up, being able to be kind of rotational guys behind Kamara when he's not on the field. And then the big DN spot where Landino is going to be, who's kind of going to break out behind them. the DePepes. There's Keyshawn Calhoun, I believe, is a true freshman.
Yep.
That's just a position where they're gonna bring in a senior guy, whether he's gonna start behind Landino or ahead of him. I think they're just gonna bring in a guy there.
I think they're sitting at like 81 or 82 scholarships,
Yeah,
so there is
they
a
had
little bit of room for.
they could bring in one
for
tomorrow if they wanted to, but I think they're waiting for to not wait. I don't think they want to waste scholarships on just like guys they're not sold on.
No, they're very meticulous. They're going to see what they have, see who hops in the portal, and if that person they deem can help the roster, they're going to make a strong run at them. And if they go through spring and they're like, "Nah, we're good," then they'll be good, and we're going to
Yeah.
enter in the fall with the same roster, and we're going to be happy about it.
Yeah, it's just an evaluation with that D line. I think there's a lot to be sorted out. I think there's a clear I think Kamara, Wheeler, and Tucker are like pretty solid. Brought in, kept to start. Besides that, I think it's full reign. I think Burris is going to get a ton of tick in Ratcliffe, but besides that, you really don't know. And we're going to play 8 D linemen like we did last year. And right now, it seems like we only have about 6 for sure playable guys. So just like I said, Collins and Dukeway, I would say, would love to see those guys break out for those last 2 spots is kind of how I'd wrap this up.
I wanted to cover 2 more things when it came to Indiana football. The first one I meant to mention when we talked about Cigs Hoosiers Connect interview. Elijah Surratt on Hoosiers Connect dropped today. He's a new dog dad. That's an awesome interview. Go check that out. And then I wanted to, because we haven't got a ton of information. There hasn't been a ton of insight. Obviously, this is a Kurt Cignetti, Mike Shanahan-led offense. But we did have Tino Sinceri depart the program. He's now the offensive coordinator at UCLA. And so the quarterback coach, Chandler Whitmer, is different this year. And so reports have been good from what's come out, but we haven't had much. So kind of do you expect anything to be different? Is that kind of a red flag for you, or is it kind of just business as usual? Like,
yeah, I expect him to kind of run his own room. I imagine he's going to take some sort of inspiration. Like Cignetti was Tino's mentor. Now Cignetti is Chandler Whitmer's mentor when it comes to developing quarterbacks. Like Cignetti is going to be heavily involved. That's not going to change. Like we talked about when he was hired, great resume. He's an NFL guy. Like if he wants to do his own thing and implement his own culture in that room and get rid of the sniper mentality, like have at it. I think there's something to be said with the sniper mentality because I think it's about, picking your spots and being a smart quarterback is really, what that's all about. And obviously making big plays and just being decisive. I think obviously that's obviously things like concepts he's going to be coaching and making sure the offense lives off of. But yeah, if he wants to use different lingo, like that's fine. And he's gonna. I'm very high on Chandler Whitmer. He's gonna be. Yeah, I'm not promising he's gonna be Tino Sinceri, who's awesome, but yeah, I think he's gonna be a great quarterbacks coach at the very least. I don't know how great he's gonna be in the recruiting world, but he's gonna be very solid when it comes to coaching and developing quarterbacks. And obviously he has guys from last year's group, Mendoza and Cherry, that were in that staff last year, and they're bringing kind of the continuity back because that room took a lot of turnover last year. This offseason.
The early returns when it comes to recruiting are good. They're very much in the race for 4-star Brody McWhorter, who's very highly regarded in the class of 26. So we'll see if they can end up like bringing him back around, but like early returns are good. So like you said, it's a much different voice, but NFL background, worked with a lot of really talented quarterbacks. Like if he's got Cigs cosign, he's got our cosign. So yeah, just excited to see what those differences end up being and how that plays out over the next couple of months. Definitely something we'll be looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. How will Mendoza, how well will he understand and learn this offense is really what it's all about, and making sure, Chandler's up to speed with that. And, leaning on Shanahan and Cignetti to get these things done is going to be super important. And I don't think he'd be brought in if he was some ego guy. And, with some, you think BMS, the hot shot coordinator they brought in from Stanford in like the last season, like him, like, I don't think he's that guy. So that's honestly more Tino coming in. I think about it, but Yeah, yeah. I think it's gonna be a great room. Obviously, I think it's pretty set. Like I think they already. What's great about it is that I think they all know what their roles are gonna be. I think it's Mendoza 1, Wilson 2, Little Mendoza 3, Bella at the 4, and then Maverick Geski's the 5. Cherry's the consultant. And then,
Yeah, get well
yeah,
soon. Another unfortunate
yeah,
late season injury.
yeah. So is Cherry not using eligibility? Like, is he gonna be a redshirt freshman next year? Now
Yeah,
that
he's not even on the roster. He's a coach.
that's all. That's so smart.
He's
That's
not taking a scholarship spot, and I don't believe he's using up eligibility,
yeah.
at least as a player.
He's probably has NIL to pay for school. It's probably a genius. It's very very smart. Awesome. Oh, he might not be able to get NIL. He might just be. He might be paying for
No,
school.
NIL is not specific to a sport. NIL is just the ability to make money off of your name,
Oh,
image,
then
or
it's definitely
likeness.
getting NIL. Then yeah, it's
Yes,
a loophole.
I would hope so.
A loophole.
But yeah,
That's
that's
what it's all
Indiana
about. So
football.
it's got to be for the kids, right? He's got to go be able to pay for books. You know, he's got to be able to go to Right Quad and get some chicken tenders. You know, he's gotta enjoy the college experience.
That's all I got for Indiana football, Brad. You got anything to add?
No. I excited for spring. They're not gonna bang too much, praying for no injuries and just really productive, you know, kind of like the vibes last year where it was just like everyone knows what to do. This is how we practice. Just making sure everything's run, instilling the culture to these young guys, I think is really important in terms of like how you approach spring. I think that needs to be kind of called out as they go through the
Oh,
process, like making sure these kids are up to speed. Like this is how we do spring. It's very, very focused. You're going to make sure you make no mistakes, and you're going to play very, very smart, fast football, relentless, physical, all those things, all the time.
speaking of the spring game, it's moved. It got moved. So the new updated spring game is now April 17th at 8 p.m. People have speculated that's now going to lead to Big Ten Network coverage and a little bit of a bigger spotlight on the program. But it did move up. So it was going to be that Friday or Saturday. It was supposed to be the 19th. It's now the 17th. So if you made plans to travel and didn't know that, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
You're
that's
alluding
Indiana
to May.
football.
So it's going to be April 17th or March 17th?
Yeah, April 17th. March 17th would be like next week. That'd be insane.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say.
And we'll
Man,
have
it's
more updates
great.
next week. We'll have recruiting updates as they come. We'll talk about transfer portal stuff. Like we'll have spring updates, and as more people come to the podium. The only thing that does it sucks a little bit about spring ball is that they're not at the podium as frequently, and so like you're not getting like a regular podcast. Like you're not going to see regular appearances. You're going to get like very spotty media appearances. So I'll have to hunt and drag for information. But that's what we do. And we'll be talking Indiana football. But
At least they're having a spring game. That's cool.
yeah,
Hopefully,
and I'm not eating my words yet.
it's good. It's good. Yeah, I don't think any of our guys are going to get poached. That would suck. I bet tampering's going on, but like if you're already on Sig's roster, like you're
If you're here,
clearly
you're
just
here.
like very,
That's what I'm
very.
saying.
I don't think he'll take you if you're not like talking to portal guys.
You're
Like
either in or you're out. I mean,
I think he'll
you
just be
saw
like,
it
yeah,
with
fucking.
well, and
Oh,
not to continue to bring him up because it's just like I don't like no ill will towards Donovan McCulley. Like he did what he had to do, right? But like you're either in or you're out. Like it was very, very clear. It's like you're either with the program or you're not with the program. If you're not with the program, like you can continue to be a student at Indiana University, but you're not going to be around the football team.
yeah,
So,
100%. Yeah,
but yeah,
that's why EJ
we're
Williams is back. He's with the program. There he is.
from off season to postseason, Brad. The basketball season concluded on Saturday. Indiana picked up a huge win at home against Ohio State. My question to you is where does the Trey Galloway shot rank since 2017 for
Since
you?
I've become a Hoosier fan.
Since we became Hoosiers.
Yeah, since I enrolled to Bloomington. Man, it's in terms of like one particular moment. I mean, the fantasy shot, pretty iconic. We didn't go to the tournament that year. I'm ranking it number one. Woodson's last game at Indiana leaving the program better than he found it, despite all the scrutiny from myself included. Like I in my sentiment, like I'm happy he left it where he found it, but yeah, we need an upgrade. Like that's just that both can be true. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah,
we want to be where we
I
want
don't
to
think they're
be,
two
like,
conflicting thoughts. I
yeah,
really
if you want to
don't.
be
I
where
don't
you
think
want
it's
to be, we can upgrade. Like Cignetti did his job. I mean, not Cignetti. Woodson did his job in the sense that 4 straight tournament misses basically makes you almost an irrelevant program. In reality, like if you want to go on like the idea, like, is Indiana a blue blood or not, the fact that that's even in question, you go 4 seasons without making the tournament, and that was already a narrative before that happened. I mean, what is the job? Like, how big is the Indiana job? Like, that's a fair question at that point. And what Woodson's been able to do, going to 3 tournaments in 4 years, because I see it as a lock at this point. If they don't make the field, it's an absolute, it's a job, is what it is. The bubble is weak. Indiana beat Michigan State on the road and Purdue. It's he's left it better than he found it. He did his job, and now it's time to get that upgrade, because now it's an upgrade job, and we can get a guy that's not coaching a mid-major, and we can get our pick of the litter because we have the NIL. We are Indiana University. We are a blue blood, and we're a job that people want. As simple as that. And that's why I think it's the best moment, because everything Trey did was solidify that. And on another note, like, I was so right about Trey Galloway when he came in as a freshman. I was saying he's going to be so special. He's going to leave Indiana as a legend, and I was right. And I was right. I'm going to brag about it on live television, live YouTube.
I have to agree with you. I think there's no other
Yeah, I
place to
was
put
right.
it besides one, because no. Well, okay, cool. I'll concede that too because of what it means. But it the moment where Galloway hits it, where they're up, where they up 4, puts them up 7, or they're up 3, puts them up whatever it ends up being.
Put him up 5.
The the most frustrating, or one of the more frustrating parts about watching this Indiana team over the last couple of years, or really since JSN left, uh, was that, like, there really is nobody who could create their own shot or go get a shot when they needed it. And that's what's been so also frustrating watching a lot of these other teams during, like, conference tournaments and things like that, is like it just feels like everybody has a guy who can off the bounce take a sidestep and hit a 3, and that's just, like, not something we've seen. So for Trey to off the dribble from 35 feet just pull up in that moment when they needed it, when you have essentially Mike Woodson's Indiana legacy hanging in the balance, like, that's a massive shot. The repercussions of that shot going in versus not going in, it's like that literally is, it's going to alter the way Mike Woodson's viewed in Indiana, because now it's, instead of 2 out of 4 tournaments, wheels fell off at the end, went out in, like, in hatred. It's like, no, this team's got a chance to fight, and it's literally because one of the more scrutinized players had arguably the biggest moment, biggest Indiana basketball moment we've seen. And, like, that's a really special moment. So I don't think it could be anywhere else but one. The finishing shot, I guess, comes close, but it's like and I also think, like, if Indiana loses that game, they're probably on the bubble and they probably still get in. But, like, to be sweating that out versus, like, the feeling around the fan base now. And I wanted to put a pin in the coaching search discussion until we kind of talked about what the Big Ten tournament looks like.
Yeah, because
But
we're playing basketball in March.
we're
I don't care
we're
who's going to be our coach next year right now. I'm
no,
focused
but it's
on
like we're
winning
very
the
much
Natty. That's what I'm focused on.
we're very much at that, like, crossroads as a program, like almost like the meme where you're staring, like, half is the haunted house and the other half is, like, the bright sunny way to go. And
Mhm.
it's like all of these, like, little butterfly lands on a leaf moments can affect what the short term and ultimately long term future of this program end up being. And any time you can stack positive moments, especially like this, especially in a time where you have a lot of people in the media and around the program talking about how Bloomington is an undesirable place to coach and how nobody wants this job. And then you see what the place looks like when you can put out a team
Yeah.
like that and produce in that way. Is like you have 17,000 people screaming their head off, blowing the roof off a building. It's like, you can't tell me that a coach is going to look at that and be like, I can't work with that. That's insane. If you're running away from that type of environment, for a fan base that's starved for a leader and just looking for somebody to point in a direction and say run, like we have to be watching two different things. Like, you're not the guy, because that was some inspiring shit.
Yeah, I obviously want a guy that comes here. Like, if we have to just outbid you to come to Indiana, like, I don't know if that's necessarily a guy I want. I want a guy that's basically almost willing to take just like a $1 million raise to come to Indiana. Like, if we can find someone like that that's already at a Power 5 conference, I mean, that's just a home run hire. I honestly, like, sure, if we have to pay him a ton, like, I'm fine with it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I want a guy that wants to be here to come to Bloomington and coach the basketball team is what I want. So, not saying that wasn't Woodson, by the way. That was not like I know that's what a lot of people were saying about Mike Woodson. That was never the case, by the way. Former alum. I don't know what anyone was thinking, telling me that Woodson didn't care and he was lazy. And yeah, he sucked at recruiting. I don't think that was like the thing for lack of trying. I think he was like just really, really bad at it. I don't think that's any fault of his own. Like, that's part of the reason why we need an upgrade. Like, two freshmen in the last 2 recruiting cycles, like, right? Like, that's unacceptable. So
that's the biggest issue. It's the encore performance was the nail in the coffin, but at the end of the day, it's impossible. And I'm actually in the middle of writing about this exact thing. This article is going to come out tomorrow or the next day, but like you just can't build a sustainable program if you are refreshing 10 guys every single year. It's impossible.
Yeah. So we're going to be starting from scratch. I don't know if we're going to be good at all next year, to be honest. So that's why I'm just kind of locked in on this year. Like, we're going to be in the tournament. I don't know if we're going next year. I know we're going this year, so it's time to lock in for the Big Ten tournament, maybe make a run there. I'm not betting against this team. This team could do tons of talent. Like, everyone's kind of found their roles. Like, everyone knows what they are now. Mbako's not the 5-star McDonald. He's a role guy. Like, he's not like run everything around the guys that are playing defense at all times. Like I've said, Rice, Goody, Leal, Galloway, and then a big guy, Renew or Ballo. That's going to be the core, like, closing lineup for this team moving forward. And, we just get Mbako locked in on his intensity on defense, and maybe Carlisle starts heating up. Like, this team is sky's the limit, is what I'm going to say.
Well, there's
enough talent there to make a run.
They're as talented as anybody in the nation. Like, that's the most frustrating part about the roster is, like, preseason top 16 team. Like, they can athletically play with anybody.
Do I think
they're not exactly a fun matchup? But no, they're like, when they come up against well-coached teams that have an equal or better talent level than them, it shows. I think that's why they're 4-13 in quad 1 chances. Like, but they play hard.
Recently,
they have been fun to watch.
Recently, they've been good against quad 1. So they're starting to really just figure it out and really reach their potential, which I don't think was ever as high as a preseason, 16 ranks. So they're a preseason top 4 seed. Like, never, I don't think they were ever that. I think they were more so, like, talent-wise, like, between 5 and 8 seed line, if we're being honest with ourselves and just looking how
that's what
plays on
6 months of basketball tells you.
Yeah, a lot of guys that just aren't two-way guys where, if you want to be a top 4 seed, like, you got to have a lot of two-way guys that play offense and defense. And Indiana really doesn't necessarily have that, but they're starting to really focus and find their roles and play really loosely. Like you mentioned, how we don't have that guy that can create shots. Woodson announces the retirement. All of a sudden, the offense is so fluid and they're playing so loose. Like, Galloway's in step backs. Like, Rice, it feels like the only guy missing out from the party is Carlisle, who's knocked down a couple recently. Like, just keep seeing him go in here and there, and you never know what's going to happen with him. Like, I'm not going to lose my faith with Kane and Carlisle. I'm just not.
I'll tell you one thing. He is not afraid to shoot the ball.
Huh?
He is not afraid to shoot the ball. I'll tell you that. So
and that's why I like him. That's why I like him so much, because I know he has that confidence. He just needs to see him go in. I know where he's at. It's a frustrating feeling. He's going to get there. And if he does, this team could be so dangerous. I'm telling you, like, if Carlisle, we have a random tournament game, like second round, and Carlisle just drops 35 for us, we just knock off the 4 seed. Like, that's a guy that dropped 30 on Arizona as a true freshman. Like, you can't tell me he's not capable of those things. Like, he's He is that guy. He's had a horrible year, and I really feel for him because I think he's very talented. He's always been focused on the defensive end as well when he's been in. He's just been so inefficient. It's been very frustrating for him, but he's definitely earned a spot in that 8-man rotation going into the tournament. And yeah, just keep on chugging, guys. I'm excited to watch on Thursday. I'm really pumped.
Yeah. Do you have the bracket in front of you?
Yeah, I can pull it up. Yeah, I got it right here.
I believe it's Oregon at noon on Thursday.
Yeah, Oregon noon on Thursday. The winner
gets
play
Illinois.
Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Michigan State, the 1 seed.
And, listen, like there are no good draws in the Big Ten tournament. Every team is good, but when you get matched up against a team you can beat, it helps a little bit.
You think Michigan State's any like different than getting like UCLA, Michigan, or Maryland? It's really not. It's like still no.
I mean, well, honestly, yes, because Indiana beat Michigan State and they didn't beat UCLA, Michigan, or Maryland. Not saying they can't beat any of those teams, but they already have beat Michigan State. So
so they actually have the belief that they can do it. They came close against Oregon. It'll be interesting to see.
The Oregon game was, what was the differential? Ended up being like 21-7 in free throws or something like that. I think Oregon shot like double or triple the amount of free throws down the stretch that Indiana did. Like you had Woodson cursing at the refs after the game.
Yeah, Woodson never does that.
No, it was great.
Yeah, it was good for him. Yeah, this is a team that can make a run. I think, oddly enough, I think they're better equipped to like finally get some fresh blood and like not play a Big Ten team for once and like see what they can do against just like a random college basketball team. And I think that's going to better suit them. And I think there's a chance they win more games in the NCAA tournament than the Big Ten tournament. It's kind of something I'll allude to.
They're an odd team. They're tough to game plan for. And if you don't have two guys to throw at Ballo and Renew, then you're really in trouble down low. You better be hitting shots from the outside because those guys are going to get theirs. They shoot from 5 feet away.
And I don't think if they go out and they lose to Oregon on Thursday, I don't think that's not going to put the torch out for me in terms of like where they're at. Like, okay, if they lose by 25, yeah, maybe I'll be like, okay.
Yeah, if it looks,
I don't think they will.
Upsetting, like if it's turned the game off bad, then it's. Yeah. But no, I don't.
Yeah, like if this team's just clicking right now, and they're gonna hang tight with Oregon. If they end up losing that game, like so what? Like when UCLA made their run as the 11 seed in the playing game, very similar to this Indiana team that's coming in. They lost their first game in the Pac-12 tournament. They're coming off 3 straight losses in the regular season. They lost to Oregon State in the first round of the Pac-12 tournament. Same Oregon State team that went to the Elite Eight that year. So you just never know in March, right? So like it's funny because they drew like the 2 best coaches in March in their Big Ten bracket, like Altman and Izzo. First 2 games, you shitting me? Like it's like so unfair. And so like I'm not gonna like overreact to what they do in the Big Ten tournament. I'm just gonna root for my team and see what they do, and then we're gonna lock in for March and see if we can maybe somehow get our way out of the first weekend, and then once you're in the Sweet 16, it's like okay, like here we are. We're in the Sweet 16. Like anything can really happen at that point because you get the the 4 days off, and then you're back the next weekend, and it's like a fresh new season again. So. March is a great time. This team has the potential to go on a run, just like we've been saying all year, and they're definitely the most dangerous 11 seed coming into the tournament. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, it's a far cry from a month and a half ago. I can actually say I get excited when Indiana basketball is coming on the TV, and so definitely going to be watching them at noon on Thursday, and then we'll be watching diligently on Sunday, and we actually. Are we going to go live after talk about Selection Sunday? I don't know. We're still talking about that, but
we'll at least preview it because we'll be recording before the tournament starts, anyways.
Yeah.
So we'll do a live show probably during one of those first 4 games, and I might be playing in one of those games. So we'll see what the schedule is, and we'll adapt from there. So,
Yeah, but we're
Yeah, I
just
think
gonna keep adding. Like we're gonna like the intro and the outro song. I don't know if we'll be able to work them in, but shout out to the boys, Wave, Nick, Skrill, Signar. Like we're keeping the 1621, keeping Butter Symphony. We're just kind of maneuvering parts around and like. But yeah, this is going to allow us to have guests on, so we're really looking forward to like reaching out to people in the space in the community and like having people on and having different discussions. And yeah, we're pumped to be here. We're
yeah,
really pumped to be
no
here.
more ad reads either.
Not,
Not yet again, at least.
not
We're
yet.
waiting on different ad reads now. So that was
So
the
we'll
first
see.
time
But yeah,
didn't have to ad lib an ad read in the
I don't know what you're
middle
talking about. We had a very detailed script and but yeah.
Yeah.
Indiana Hoosiers Live. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Shout out to the chat. The chat was actually going kind of crazy. Shout out to Jackson Johnson for dropping the socials. Shout out to Luke. Shout out to James. Shout out to Shell. Appreciate you guys. Um, yeah, Indiana Hoosiers Live. We're here, man. We're
Go
here.
Hoosiers. I'm so
Go
locked in.
Hoosiers.
You can just get the second weekend. Like, oh, anything can happen with these guys. Anything can
Anything can
happen.
happen.
They got enough shooters. They got like Mbako and Goody. Like they can hit big shots. Get Rice, Carlisle. Galloway is the best shooter on this team, apparently. It's like I don't know. And I kind of want to wrap it on this point. Like we talked about like early in the year, like we were like didn't want to watch Indiana basketball, which is like doesn't mean we were wrong. Like they weren't playing up to what they can be. And it was very frustrating to watch, and they didn't turn it on until February, right? Like
It was,
as
you know
soon
what
as
it
Woodson
was? It
announced
was
their
a
retirement. It was so funny.
as a strictly Indiana football podcast, what we were doing was keeping the negativity of the Indiana basketball fan base away from the positivity of the Indiana football fan base. So it was a conscious decision to avoid discussions only because they were so negative. But when it got to a breaking point, one, we couldn't ignore it. And then two, as you start to come out the other side, it's like there are actually a lot of positives about this Indiana search. I have the sell for Indiana basketball coming out, like I said, the next couple of days. Like it's their I know it looks doom and gloom, but it's like to Brad's point of us kind of like ignoring the team earlier. It's like they're worth watching. They play for the pride and they play for the name in the front of the jersey, and it's like they've earned this. They've earned all of this, and that's a huge because they could have folded and packed their bags and gone to they could have given up, and they
They
didn't.
could have
They
thrown in
fought.
the towel very easily on this year. They could have very easily done that. They had their bags, like they got paid. It wasn't like contingent on any sort of success on the season, like because I don't think they're allowed to be. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think that's like legal. So yeah, they've really stepped up, and I'm super proud of this team. Super proud of the seniors: Ballo, Goody, Galloway, and who am I? I'm missing a guy that's so bad. Goody, Leal, Galloway, and Ballo. I want to give those four a special shout out because those are probably the four guys that have been so consistent all year. And it was kind of the other underclassmen that kind of had to follow suit and really kind of get with the program. And yeah, just shout out to those four because I think they really carried the bulk of the year for this team. And yeah, I that's why I think that group's gonna be one of my favorite senior classes for a long time for the Hoosiers. So shout out to those four. I want to give those guys some love because they deserve it. Team MVPs all around, those four. Captains, just great all around teammates, always been on it. Like Ballo had his moment, a couple moment where, you know, but for the most part, when he was on the floor, like there was no doubt in my mind that he was a little maybe he wasn't used to game speed when he started the season. And I think when you're 7 foot 260, like I think that's like fair. Like you're a different type of athlete. Like it takes a while to get back into game mode. You're not playing twice a week, you know, in the off season. So it's super proud of those four. Great senior class. Glad they won on their day.
Yeah, I agree. Big time. Big time. Shout out to the Voice of College Football Network. Check out the Indiana channel at the Voice of College Football Network. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Yeah, it's Indiana Hoosiers Live. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.